while Brian's getting us connected up, what we're going to do is to try to give you at least a good introduction to Fldigi. It's been quite a while since I'd played with mine very much. I just turn it on, use it, because I've had things set up the way to do it. But we introduced a set of standard macros the last couple of weeks, and so I spent some time this weekend and today going through so we could get it set up. Up at the top here, I'm not connected to his computer-aided tuning port, but I do recommend that if you have a CAT-capable receiver, learn to use this, because what you can do is you can see the frequency and even make the adjustments right there from the keyboard by clicking on the symbols, and you can actually change the frequencies right there from the computer. So that was the only reason for having that particular icon up there. Anybody familiar with computer-aided tuning radios? Okay. It can be quite handy. It can be quite handy. What we have here, I basically, we're not going to go through all of the details for setting up. Installing it is very simple, and once you get on Fldigi, you will actually reinstall it probably about every 3 months, because they do come up with updates fairly frequent. And it's very simple. You simply download it, execute the downloaded file. It does everything that it needs to do, and then you go back in through Microsoft, through Windows, and basically uninstall the previous version of it.
You have to go to the SourceForge.
SourceForge is the best source. It's not the only one, but SourceForge is the best source. The developer of the software he's got a website, but
there's a redirect. If you just do an Fldigi download search,
it'll go for SourceForge.
It'll go to SourceForge, yeah.
Okay. Give you a look at what you would be looking at there. Come on. Go into the downloads, and you can see right here where I have Fldigi 1.8, and there's not a 1.8, yeah, 4.1.08. That was a previous edition, and just today I downloaded and upgraded to the later version. And then
Do you normally keep a couple of three of the older versions on there?
I usually keep at least one.
Yeah. But if you don't, there's something wrong with that one. Sometimes you have to go back.
And there are times that they have another edition that may come out within a couple of weeks. But yes, I usually do keep at least one of the older versions. Okay, once you get it installed, your startup icons, etc., are going to be anywhere you put them with any other program. I usually try to group my Fldigi and FLMessage and FLRig together. FLRig is the one that I had up there that's the computer-aided program. I usually keep those together somewhere on my desktop. And if you are actually connected to a CAT program, you can stretch that all across the screen. It's not just the way I had it right in here in this one place, but you can actually fill this whole screen with some additional capabilities that didn't show up in the micro version. Do you use the CAT rig?
I've never stretched it.
Okay. couple of things in using it. Point out this frequency that's right here is a combination of the frequency that you should be transmitting on. If you have cat control, you can control your frequency up in your FL rig. But this right here is a frequency that you have to put in that matches what's in the cat control, because it uses that plus your offset frequency to tell what frequency you're actually transmitting on. Okay. Couple of things that in terms of doing it, there are different things that you have to go through. In my case, I have 4 different sets. Where'd my macros go? 4 different sets of macros that I use. My latest and greatest is this macros Rial. And what's on there, if I click here to highlight it, come down and open it, well, it's actually already down here, but down here in this bottom area, this is my contesting call, so to speak, with a little 1010 built into it. But this is the macros that go along with our Northwest Georgia Fldigi net. Now to show you, if we go back up here to File, go to Macros, Open. Now watch down there across the line, and you will see that the macros, I'm going to select just one, and there's only one set of macros in it. And if you notice down the bottom there, there's only one set of 12 macros that are there. Let's go back and reopen the one that is current with my complete set, macros Rial. And you can see right here that there are 2 lines. So you can actually, but there are in fact 4 sets of macros that can be used. One of the other nice features about this, if you go up here under Configure, Configure Dialog, oops, wrong place. Let's close that. That's not where I wanted. View. Come down here and you see one that says View, Hide, 48 macros. We click on that. You can have 4 complete sets of macros available at all times. It does take up a little bit of space from the window, but then I've also got a lot of room here that for where I would have my FL rig. But you can have all of them right there available at one time. If you're going to set one up and you want to use one down here where it's 2, I would suggest if you've got a favorite set of macros for contesting or whatever, make it the first one. There are 2 different ways of getting the macros into the system. One, you can simply go up here and click, and it opens it up. Okay? When you do that, you can rename it right here. That particular macro, you can rename it right here. This is called Bragg. That's a little bit of information about me. And we're not seeing all of it. Stretch it out a little. Oh, doesn't have my correct age. This is not my latest one. But you can see that it identifies call, name, age, just a little bit of information, and typically I use anywhere from 30 to 50 watts depending on what I'm doing. In Georgia, we got so many holes that it's usually 50 watts. My my antenna, operating system, software version. Surprised it. Oh, version it picks up automatically from from the software. Interface, signal link USB, and then an email. What else is in there? But once you make changes here, it's very simple to change the macro. You go over here, do apply, and then simply close it. Now, something very important. It's not saved except for this session. So you have to go back up here where it's File, Macro, and save there. Now you've made a change in the master file for where they are.
You had an option just before you went to that said save under open. Can't save it there.
I don't know. I've always go over to the next one because I know at that point that'd be a good one to try out sometime. See, that may be the reason one of my changes here didn't take place. I didn't get there. But okay, how many have used Fldigi at all? Okay. Does everything look familiar so far with what you're familiar with? Okay. This software package is unbelievably easy to use. If you look back at the instructions, some of the instructions go back, I went back today, back into 2005 time frame for some of the instructions because there's been very little change to the basic way it operates, even back from the beginning. I'm not sure what the refinements are that they're putting in because most of them, I don't know what they've done.
I think it's mostly just adding more modes. I think that's the...
Yeah. One of the other things, I don't think I have it in here, but Fldigi can actually be used to interface with WinLink. Not often very done, but it can be tied into the WinLink system. It takes a receiver that's dedicated to it, connected to a computer that's running WinLink software. My son and I did that up in Tunnel Hill when he was living close by and could get a good signal going to it. Okay, let's save this and get out of it. All right, we can cancel now. Let's go back up here and make sure we get macros Rial. Open that. So we've got them all there. When you're getting a message, let's go through a little bit of what you do when you're getting a message. The message will come streaming in, and I think Hank's going to have us set up so we might be able to do a little bit of that a little bit. But when the message is coming in, and if you're wanting to respond to that person, as the message comes in and you can identify the call sign, just simply click one time and it will appear right here. Name, click there one time and then it will appear here. So that when you come up and actually send a message, CQ, let's got one. Here's an example. Nope, I need to left click, not right. I mean to right click, not left click. Left click. All right, here we go. Yep. That would probably be easier. Once you've got a stream in there and you get a name that's up here, let's go put, you can manually put it in also. Okay, and you notice it connected that with Hank because that's somewhere it's recognizing him. But when you're sending a message and you're going to answer, and we click answer for execute, here's what it does. Now we're on slow speed 31 here, but you can see it's answered the call. Next thing you might want to do is QSO. The thing it's going to do is going to ask him to come in, and at this point I start typing. And when you get to the end, we go up and do a KN because we want to continue the conversation. This is back to you, Hank. And then it stops. Okay? And at the end of your message, if you're going to stop your QSO, then you do an SK instead of a KN. Now, one of the other things is a little bit about, and instead of actually running it through the I'm just going to simply right-click, and you can see what it is. Now, my name here, where this is showing up, that is actually taking out of information that you've put in as this is you. Okay? QTH, this is the location, Tom Hill, Georgia, and location is going to be grid square. Okay? Let's go ahead and do that. One thing I forgot. You have to be in a QSO mode to do that. And I've always got this over here, closed to receive. That will automatically get it to the point that it turns it off. So that's one item that I recommend you have available to you, because if you do play around with it the way I was doing here, okay, how do you shut it down? The easiest way to do that is just simply go to the one function that all it does is turn off and give your call sign, or gives your call sign and then turns off. Let's look. Configure. Configure dialog. There's a number of things that you need to set up. Some of which you probably will not make any use of. Rig control might be one that is used.
That's your cat control.
Is what?
That's your cat control, Rick.
Yeah, that's cat control. Sound card. Devices. I want to talk about this devices because this one is somewhat important. there is an issue if you have updated your computer, your Windows computer, sometime past mid 18. You may not be able to see these audio codecs over here. There was a change that was done in the Windows software that you have to go in and basically enable. Now I do have a printout, and if you just simply go online, Fldigi audio codec issues or window issues with Fldigi, there's 2 or 3 instruction sheets on how to take care of that. And it's quite common. I had that come up on 2 of my computers. My laptop didn't have the problem. So I always had 1 computer, but now, as of today, I've got all 3 of my computers working on that. Okay. I've hit a few high spots. For those that have been using Fldigi, some points that would be good to point out to others that are maybe not familiar with it as far as a quick enter. I've tried to hit some high spots that...
On your macros, you can move those things around too, can't you? I had mine, at one time I had some at the top, some at the bottom.
I don't know. I haven't tried. I've tried to play with it this afternoon after I went to 49. I don't know about 48. But I do know, let's go back to the configure, and we're looking at...
Finally, I got somebody on 40 meters here.
device.
Do what? Yeah. This is Richard in Idaho. That's,
Moving them around, one of the things that's, let's go to files, let's look at the macro files a little bit. Now you notice that I've got four different files here, and the one that I have here today is my latest one, and it's got 3 of the 4 are what I want. I still need to modify. You can go in, and these, you can see that one has 8 kilobytes of information in it. Let's go down here and look at this Northwest Georgia PSK net. Let's install it just momentarily. Notice there's only 1. But any of these you can highlight and make your own macro. But you have to also be familiar with what these are, because these pull information that you have already placed in setup. And that's one of the nice things about it. Your frequency, if you've got it, that's going to come off of whatever you've got set up as the frequency. My call is coming from part of the original setup. There's a lot of these that I don't use, but the basic ones you do go through and take care of. Now, if we go, one of the things we did earlier had to do with this file. Nope, configure. Configure dialog. That ain't right. Not configure dialog. No, it's not the one I want.
I think Dave Freeze was the one that was accredited for starting Fldigi. And he always checks in on the net of 7.088 on Thursday night, starts at 8:45. on Hellschreiber, Hell 105. He always checks in on that one.
I keep forgetting the one I really want is go to view, because that's what we're really talking about.
Yes. See the numbers over to the right. You can click on those numbers and change.
Only two or
On the
one is always fixed.
Yes.
2, 3, or 4 can change. But that's only if you've got, when you're filling in all of your macros, if you've got all 48 in, or if you've got 37, you will have 4 lines. If you've only got 36, you'll only have 3 lines down there. Okay, you got?
Yeah, I'm sitting here, I've been doing QSO, that's why y'all been talking.
Like I said, it's something that I've made very few changes. I made more changes in the last month working to get the macros for the Northwest District, updating a couple of pieces of information, but it's actually quite stable. Okay.
Things going haywire. We'll do a quick little demo here on air, but I wanted to, Rial mentioned sound cards, and I know a lot of you guys raised your hands. I don't know how many people have got a setup, or have a setup and just are thinking, wondering what all you need to do that. And there's 3 basic components to this. If you've got an HF rig that's got a, that's fairly, modern, the last 15, 20 years anyway, that's got some sort of cat control, it's got some sort of audio interface to it for some sort of speaker out. You can use the sound card in your computer. However, that complicates things a little bit with the way the interface works. But an external sound card is about the simplest way to go. Rial has got he's got a signal link.
Signal link.
And that seems to be pretty common. They're about $100 and whatever the cables are, and you've got to set some jumpers for your radio inside, and it allows you to control the radio. It uses a Vox circuit in there to key the radio, so you don't have to worry about some of your cat commands working all the time like they're supposed to, and it's pretty simple. Quality of those are pretty good. They have a pretty high noise floor, so don't expect to copy a whole lot of really weak signal work with a signal link. Here's one if you don't want to spend any money. You can buy these on eBay for $9. This is a USB headphone adapter, and this one's it's got a 6-pin DIN to work with I did have this hooked up to the Yaesu 857D, a little portable radio. And there's your receive audio, and there's your transmit audio, and it uses just a standard Windows driver. This works great if the station you're working is next door to you, but besides that, it's not. But I have seen guys make it work. I think the furthest station I was able to copy with FT8 was New York, I think, with that. But it's, like I said, $9.
Talking about noise, one of the things that has helped me in my radio room is ferrite cores on both cables for this, and I put 2 of them, one at each end of each of the cables, and it does significantly, for me, improve the noise level.
This is a little more high end. I bought this at a Ham Fest, and it works. This is a time wave
still working?
navigator. If y'all remember the old US interface, Time Wave bought them. It's an interesting device in that it has USB inputs powered by USB like Signal Link only, but it also has transceiver output. So if you've got an older transceiver that needs a serial connector, it takes care of that for you. So you basically build a cable that controls everything. This also has a built-in wind keyer. This will also control up to 3 radios at a time, and it has 2 built-in sound cards. But
Is your HDMI connected?
it is. What'd you say? Two.
And you got your microphone on?
I don't know, do I? It's on mine. There's a light
It's on you?
blinking. There's a light blinking.
That's good. Rob was working better than yours. Maybe switch over to
The other sound card, another way to do this is if you like to build stuff that's I said PCs don't make great sound cards for noise. It depends on what you have. That was sort of a generalized statement. You can buy a box, a little kit like this. This is an Fldigi interface, which is basically some isolating transformers. It has a RS-232 USB converter built into it. Plug that into your microphone and speaker port on your laptop or your PC, and it will isolate. It'll isolate completely your radio and your computer from each other. That works good. I'm using a hybrid version of a little L-Craft KX3. The sound card that I'm using is the older version of this Navigator. I've got a PK232 with a sound card. There's two versions of this. Back in the 90s, they came out with a sound card version of this thing called the PSK PK232. But there again, that's just an isolation. It was not really a sound card. This one actually has a sound card, and it's a sort of a different version of this. It's really nice because it's isolated, and it has one of the lowest noise floors around. The military uses them for, they have some radar functions that they can use to filter with this thing, so it's really got a great noise floor. But that's what I'm using right now. Let's look at I'm decoding a signal right now. This is PSK 31. You can't really hear it. There's so much noise, you can't really hear the sound. This guy, WA8, TJC is calling CQ, and just for grins, I'm going to answer and see if you can hear me. I'm only running 20 watts here, QRP, so let's see.
Notice the call got entered up the top.
Double clicked it, yeah. Now if I was hooked up to the internet, it would have gone to QRZ.com and looked up the call for me, but I can't for some reason get my phone to play nice. So I've got a macro set up to answer the call, and just answer him. We'll see if he comes back. He was a pretty good signal. I don't know, somebody can look up where he is. Let's see, WA8 TJC. Charles Cook in Ashland, Ohio. And somebody else is coming back on top of it. That's him. If the signal conditions were better, it would be good to be able to hear that kind of warbling sound. I can turn on the radio and I can know, oh, it's a PSK 31 signal or a PSK 63 signal. So he sent something back to me there, a little garble there. I'm going to respond. This is there again, another macro. Got a macro that starts the radio up, makes the call, and then I've got something to basically, as Rial was talking about, sort of identifies who I am. And because the conditions are such, I've got it set to repeat everything twice. I'll type in his name up here. I don't know if I missed it, if he was talking about Charles or Chuck or, well, we'll see. We'll get it right here, I guess. But it picks up, the macro set up to pull whatever the operator's name was back there, and to save you some time there. Like I said, if I had an internet connection, it would go to QRZ.com and pull the location. I don't know why my phone's not, my hotspot's not working.
You see his set of macros right there are pretty much the same ones that I had, and I think that may be a standard.
This is very, 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 very similar. Yeah, and you just kind of tweak them for yourself. Yep. This one here is weather macro, which won't work because you need the internet, but you put in the airport weather code for your nearest airport, and you can stick that, and it'll give a weather report from where you were. AM radio guys are on the weather, so if you want to give a weather report.
I learned something new tonight. I'll have to figure that one out.
So So now he's typing this. You can tell it's freehand. I can tell by the way the signal looks. He's sort of typing freehand here back to me. See, here's the temperature and here's the weather report. So, 17 degrees.
Weather facts is another good thing.
Yeah.
It's fun to play with. Ever used that weather facts?
I just listening to stuff.
You know, if you haven't used these, you're probably wondering why it has my QTH and my call and everything as a field that you put in there instead of just being, it's you all the time. But like for field day this weekend, we can put in the club call and the location of the experiment station, and it sends that out every time instead of your home information. And you don't have to re-enter all of it, you just set up the call, set it right there, boom, let you do for field day. And in fact, we can pull it up every time we do field day at the same location, or you can set up a field, a set of them to work here in an emergency.
The other nice thing about these macros, is you can, if you're so inclined, you can edit those with a text editor. And just like he was talking about, if you want to go through them, when I was setting up the macros for the Northwest Georgia Aries, I went through and blew through. We had the ones that we had ginned up weren't for PSK, they were for something else. I did a find and replace and went through and changed all the macros. You could do the MyQTH that way with the text editor and then just save it and everything is fine there. This guy's telling me lots of stuff here. This is a common exchange. There again, this is a canned exchange and Fldigi to brag about your station, which everybody has to talk about that almost as much as the weather. But he's going through and talking about his rig, and I'm going to do the same thing back to him. And I have no idea what my macros are set for, so it's going to come with something. So I'm going to have a Cray 5 computer here. I don't know what it's going to come back with. We'll see. But this is, like I said, this is extremely simple setup. If anybody, I was talking to Felton about, anybody wanting to get on the air doing this, I've got a really simple setup. Like I said, I'm barely running 20 watts here, and I'm not sure what we've got for an antenna outside, but I've got it tuned on 40 meters, and this just happens to be the what's on the band tonight here. Let's see.
7070 is a fairly common frequency to use for if you're on 40 meters.
All right, now I got to brag here. Let's see what I'm going to say. I'm not using a buddy pole, but hey, we're close enough there. We'll say that. Never know. Yeah, the guy'll never know that. But this mode, PSK 31, is very, very small. It's very slow. You can see our band pass here, what we've got. You can see how small of a signal that is. It's slow, but it lends itself to typing. I just am lazy. We're using macros here. You could type obviously this fast, but it's a good mode for very poor signal conditions. We've been using them with Aries on Tuesday nights. We've tried to drop down to PSK 31 because the faster versions of like 63 and 125, we're just not getting it, not getting it done on 80 meters. And if we ran 63, maybe I'll show that here in a second, the bandwidth that it's taking up would be wider. 125 is wider still. And so sometimes it's just about band conditions. But there again, this is a low power mode. Now there's no error correction. This is, you're seeing some of the copy is, what's in red is what I'm sending and what's in black is what he sent. And you'll notice there's a couple errors in there. And it's, so there's a little bit of gibberish in that. But for the most part, it's a pretty good copy tonight, all things considered.
One of the things that talking about the bandwidth that's needed to send it out, Hank and I have radios where we can essentially use a high pass, low pass filter to make a band pass. It just so happens that 1 kilohertz is where they come together. So if they use a 1500 offset, we might raise our frequency 500 hertz so that we now are setting on 1 kilohertz because we can narrow our filters in from both directions toward the 1 kilohertz. So we can eliminate a lot of the extraneous noise, which helps some. It's not a guarantee, but it does help some.
Let me get off this QSO and I'll demonstrate that, and you can see how it shows up. Using the waterfall here is a great tool anyway, for lots of things, not just for this. But if you've got a PAN adapter on your radio or using an SDR receiver or something,
Could you expand your?
hang on, I just screwed this up. I'm pressing the wrong buttons here. This guy's going to want an idiot. Let's see. I'll show you sort of this essentially is, when this goes back to receive, you'll see, I don't have my filter set as wide as this, but I've got them open pretty good there. That's how not to do a QSO there with macros. So. Now, I don't know if you can really see with the lights on here, down below 500, you see it start to turn sort of black. I've got a filter just below, I've got it rolling off right below 500, and it doesn't roll off up here on top till about 3,500, but I've got Fldigi set to cut it. But I'm going to change the bandwidth here and just start necking it down. And you can see I'm bringing the top in and the bottom a little bit, but there was some, you can't really see maybe really well, there was some interference up here on the top, and now it is gone. And if I turn the volume up, now it's just noise. If I expand it back up again, you can see there's a signal up there almost at 2800. It's not interfering in most in the passband, but you can clip that out. And as Rial was talking about, you can sort of center your frequency around where you're working. Now, Fldigi, if it has the correct CAT controls on your radio, the QSY button down here will optimize wherever you're working. It'll move the signal to the center of the passband that you have set up. So if you've got your radio set up, and I've got this, I'm running CAT control, as Rial mentioned. I'm running a little KX3, so I set up the rig control. You can download the rig control file from the website, pick your rig, get all your comm settings right, and off you go. And it's doing all the rig control, so you can sit here and change well, trust me, I'm changing the frequency. Y'all can't see it on the radio, but I'm changing the frequency. But pressing transmit here, the radio goes into transmit. And turn it off and it comes back out of transmit. But like I said, just real simple setup here. And I'd be glad, anybody wants to get on the air, be glad to help you do it, but it doesn't take a whole lot. And I have a friend in Marietta that uses Fldigi with a signal link controlling a set of Drake twins, and it works like a champ. Now, he runs all over the radio sometimes till it's heated up good, but he does PSK and RTTY from Fldigi on a set of old Drake twins with building the cables right. So just about any radio will work if you're willing to take the time to build the interface, but you can just about, build anything here with between DX Engineering and wherever to get, you don't have to build anything. You can buy all the parts you need. That's right. Yeah, handmadeparts.com list. So, but that's a real simple overview. I know that was real brief. If anybody's got any questions, I want to come up here and look at this and poke a button or two. You'd be glad to.
Show them all the modes of this thing.
Yeah, this is kind of.
I got a quick question before we scoot.
Yes, sir.
That blip that just went by a moment ago, what is that? Does anybody?
As far as I know, it's aliens. I don't know. I'm not sure. That's a.
Good. There's
Yeah.
not something wrong with my rig.
You could have had one of them ladies across the parking lot with those extra earrings and stuff.
Yeah. Since it's AM, who knows? Yeah. Here's a good list of modes here. Of course, Morse, and there's Contestia. There's all the speeds for that. Domino, all the different speeds, and these are all really versions. They're all really, really good versions of radio teletype. I mean, they're all, you vary the frequency, you vary the tone spacing, and that's essentially, it's not a whole lot harder than that. FSQ is an interesting mode. I thought it would take off when FT8 came off. It's a keyboard chat protocol, very, very short and quick. Nobody likes to use it. Hellscriber, which is neat. I wish we could find a station to do that on. It's an analog print. I don't know what that is. MFSK is a great mode for sending pictures, if you want to send pictures. MT63 has some forward error correction. It sends the same information over and over again.
Redundancy.
And it's got some redundancy. Olivia is another good mode. It works pretty good weak signal. Of course, good old PSK. QPSK, which is a version of PSK. 8PSK, which is uses a time. It's got a time variable in it. You can see the modes go up to 1200 pretty fast. PSKR also has forward error correction. We never could get it to work in the district. We tried because it sends stuff twice. We never could get it to work right. Good old radio teletype. Thor and Throb are very similar modes that use a lot of bandwidth, but there again, lots of forward error correction. WeatherFax, if you can find some of those and sit there and record weather charts. That's a pretty neat thing to do. But lots of modes here. It's got a WWV set up here. If you want to tune the sample, if you want to see how good your sound card is, you can tweak the sample frequency for your sound card to get it really close. It'll start up a analyzer, and you can sit and watch on the screen for an hour if you've got time to let it run, as it takes the tone from WWV. Interesting little piece of software, though. Yes, sir.
From a Aries perspective, I wonder if I were to wake up in the morning and find out that there's been a disaster overnight and et cetera, where do I start? Do I start with D-Star? Do I start with System Fusion? Do I start with APCO 25? Do I start with Fldigi? Where do I go? Who decides what's going to be used? Is there a priority? We'll start here and then go to here and then go to here and then start.
Speaking from experience in the past, always gone to 3975 lower sideband and see what's going on there on HF, and then go from there. That may not be the protocol, but that seems to be a good place to start. Local, if 805 is another next machine to go to here for Georgia, and then your local Aries repeater.
Pretty much it. Go locally and then go to the state frequencies as listed. On the state side, 3975, we got a 40 meter frequency.
That when we had the almost bad weather that we had a couple of weeks ago, we had 3975 was pretty active, even though this was going on. It was pretty active. I hung out on D-Star for a little while, and they might have had a check-in net, I don't know, but 3975 was pretty active, just kind of waiting around, and 805 was pretty active taking check-ins there. But that's always a good place to start. Usually, if a lot of people show up there, even if they don't know what to do, somebody knows. It's just a good place to start because it's got great coverage for the state.
What do y'all call your weather net locally?
What do we call our late
Yeah,
one?
what frequency you use for your Skywarn
Our
net locally?
443675, the link repeater,
Okay.
K4WC.
K4WC. We got three repeaters linked here in the county.
Okay.
440 machine, 146 745, and 146 685.
This is like Whitfield County. It's 147 135 is our number one. 145 230 is our backup.
Yeah.
805 is if we're looking for weather. National Weather Service usually links that up if it's outside of our immediate area.
Right.
Somebody will volunteer to call the net on a 135, and then somebody will jump back and forth to 805 as needed to shuffle stuff around, especially for the Weather Service, if they link that up.
Which is a good time to promote DRAS.
That's right.
Do you take these systems portable with you if you get deployed and et cetera?
This is not exactly what I would take. This is easy to demonstrate. I've got a little go box. It's a little easier to move around. But yeah, it's the same. It's got two things that I use a lot for deployments. One, it has some sort of sound card in it, like we're talking about, and it's got a TNC for like a packet modem to do VHF packet. That's one reason it's kind of bulky. That's one reason I like the sound card enabled PK, because you can do packet, flip a switch and use a sound card, flip another switch, and you can connect two radios to it, and you can do VHF packet on one side and sound card modes on HF on the other at the same time. So it's kind of like having two boxes in one. So, but it's a little bulky to carry around, however, but that's a good, but a go box ought to have, as a minimum, some sort of sound card in it. And like I said, the signal link's pretty small. Lots of newer radios, 7100 ICOM's built-in sound card, 7300's got a built-in sound card. The FT 991's got a built-in sound card. K3S has got a built-in sound card. Bigger radios do. The new, have y'all seen the new ICOM 705? The new QRP? I think it's going to have a sound card option eventually in it, and that'll be pretty nifty, small package. But the 7100, 7200, the 7300 all have built-in sound cards. Kind of saves you from having to carry. With the right kind of software, you can do packet with a sound card. It's just not very straightforward. Just not very straightforward.
Like you said, 99% of go boxes that you see out there, people going portable, it's got the signal link in it, because it's the most popular.
I've had no problem with mine.
I have no problem with mine.
It's very easy to set up. Yes, Steve.
I've got the K4HYJ, which has got the built-in.
It's got built-in sound. That's right.
Are you saying that it's better just go ahead and get the signal link rather than put them on the radio?
Well, it sure is easy to use an external sound card. One of the things you'll notice is if you're in a situation where you get outside your home setup, where everything's different, and the very first thing you need to do is adjust your transmit level, to keep the ALC from, clamping down too much. And you've changed your whole setup, boom, you can adjust it quickly here. On some radios, you've got a knob that'll do it. I know L-Craft, you can assign a knob on the front to do it that makes it easy, but some radios you can't do that. You have to go into Windows and adjust the sound card that way. And so if you're in an unusual situation, it sure does make it easy to be able to just sit there and spin the knob,
And with Velcro squares, you can stick it in.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't weigh anything.
And if you change bands, you probably will need to change your transmit level to be closer to optimal.
And the receive level too. You've also got the receive level adjust on there too.
So do you buy those for a certain radio, or does one work on any?
No, the interface,
Well, the
there's only one
cabling-
cable.
Yeah.
There's one cable
Cabling
here.
is different.
This cable here is the only really unique cable, and most of the time it'll come with it, or maybe another $5 or something. But it's got a special telephone
About
fitting
18.
that goes on it. The other one is a 6-pin data, standard 6-pin data. I guess
Yeah.
that's called a mini.
Yeah, Mini 6. But yeah, you buy the cable or you can build it for your radio. There's some jumper settings inside the radios
Yeah,
to
those
key it for
16.
speed. You can, change.
And all the instructions come with it, no problem whatsoever. You build your own, you can buy them.
Yep.
You can order them, configure to your rig. And nowadays, you can get them used at Hamfest and everything else for a lot cheaper. They want $130, $160 for them now, I think.
Yeah, $130.
Yeah.
I got mine for about 100.
Like I said, they're good devices. You got the ferrites are good. They take RF in pretty bad. But some of the newer ones are better. The transformers are a little better. The old ones used to saturate. The very first, I don't know, first 2 or 3 years they were out, they had a Texas Instruments chip for their sound card, and they were terrible about working with Windows. And if I don't know how many, if anybody had, this has been 6 or 7 years ago. Every time you started up anything you started up, it lost the codec. You had to go back and change it, and that was the fault with the signal link. And they finally got that worked out. But yeah, they're pretty simple to use.
They're better, pretty much better than anything you can get.
The only problem I've had was a Windows problem.
Yeah.
When they came up with a Windows update.
Yeah, every time Windows updates, something goes wrong, you gotta go in there, reconfigure, redo something.
Man, unless you're doing like EME or Meteor Scatter or something crazy like that, they're up to the task for sure. Anybody got any other questions?
Well, you got all this in a handbook you can issue, I think.
I'll email it to you.
Actually,
You're gonna print copies of the.
there is quite a bit of material that was developed early on with Fldigi. Most of the later stuff that I've seen is probably 5 years old. So there may not be a whole lot new other than throwing in a new modem at some point in time. But
Yeah,
that's
a new
something-
mode. That's a.
I've printed them and bound them, so to speak, but that was 2005 maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know about changes after that or something, so you make a good point, just go through there and compare them.
Internet's a good encyclopedia.
Yeah, it's always right.
Hey, I got it on the internet.
Yeah.
Got to be right.
Got to be right.
All right, we thank Rial and